तर भावना कशात वेलकम बॅक. त्या चॅनलवर मी सेट्रा सगळा हे करणार आहे, स्ट्रीम करणार आहे. बेसिकली मला एक ग्राइंड जेवढा पण मी जेवढा पण मी करतोय एक्सरसाइज एक्सरसाइज एक्सेट्रा आता मी प्रोजेक्ट बनवतो माझा गेम प्रोग्रामिंगचा. सो सो उद्या सब आहे माझी वाट लागणार आहे. आय डोंट नो बनवू शकणार कारण की व्हिडिओ बघून बनवतोय मी कधी ट्राय नाही केलं गेम प्रोग्रामिंग पहिले. आय एम मेनली इंटू डेटा सायन्स. सो आय आय सिरियसली डोंट नो काय होणार आहे. वाट लागणार आहे भाई.
Process of pressing Control and B to find where it is, and then dragging in a new one and changing those properties. Instead, what we can do is press Control and D to duplicate. So Control D to duplicate an object. And now we have two objects. I can press Control D again to duplicate it. And right now it still looks like one object, and that's because they're overlapping with each other. So if I just move it, you'll see that that was duplicated. Also, a shortcut to duplicate an object is to hold down Alt before you drag with the movement tool. So hold down Alt and then drag to drag out a new object. So that's Alt and drag, which is a good shortcut. And if we want to select multiple objects and move them as a group, you can hold down Shift to select multiple objects. And then to deselect these objects, you can hold down Control and left click to deselect. So now that I have these four objects selected, I can move them, rotate them, and scale them as a group. So press Control Z to go back. That is Shift to select multiple, Control to unselect, and holding down Alt and dragging to duplicate. Now it is finally time to start talking about programming. And when I mention programming, probably the first thing that comes to mind is someone sitting at a desk and typing out hundreds of lines of code. And while we can program games that way in Unreal Engine with the language C++, Unreal also gives us the option to use their visual scripting language called Blueprints. So instead of writing hundreds of lines of hard to read code, we can just get boxes and string them together called nodes. Logically, they are the exact same thing as typing out code. It's just another way to visualize your program, and in my opinion, it is a lot easier and faster than C++. So a common question is, should I learn C++ or should I learn Blueprints? For most of your projects, I would stick with Blueprints, especially if you are a beginner. Blueprints can do almost everything C++ can. But even if you are going to use C++, you're going to encounter Blueprints. Since Blueprints are everywhere in Unreal Engine, one way or another, you're going to have to learn Blueprints. And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. We're going to jump straight into Blueprints. Let's open up a blueprint, and probably the most important blueprint right now for our game is the third person character. So the default third person character that comes with the templates. I'm going to press escape to exit game mode. And then all of our blueprints are right now located within third person blueprints and BP underscore third person character. So if I double click on this, this is all the logic that makes up my third person character. And right now our window is hovering on top of our Unreal editor. I can hold down left mouse button on the tab and then dock it up here. That's how I can quickly switch in between my main map or any of the editor windows I have open up character. So if I did an important blueprint right now for our game is the third person character. So the default third person character that comes with the template. I'm going to press escape to exit game mode. And then all of our blueprints are right now located within third person blueprints and BP underscore third person character. So if I double click on this, this is all the logic that makes up my third person character. And right now our window window is hovering on top of our Unreal Editor, I can hold down left mouse button on the tab and then dock it up here. That's how I can quickly switch in between my main map or any of the editor windows I have open. Before we dive into blueprints, let's cover the user interface. So right now we have the event graph in the middle here. And the event graph is where we're going to be doing the majority of our blueprint logic. And then to the left of that, we have the construction script. We will not be going over the construction script within this video because this is mostly used by artists. And then to the left of that, we have the viewport. The viewport in this video, we use C++ blueprint or game mode. And then all of our blueprints are right now located within third person blueprints and BP underscore third person character. So if I double click on this,
dari ini.
So right now it's the female mesh by default. I can also go here and then select skm_Manny to get the male mesh. And the controls of the blueprint viewport are the same as the level. So I can hold down right mouse button to go ahead and navigate, or I can press the F key to jump to my selected components, and I can use the scroll wheel to zoom out and zoom in. And hold down Alt and left mouse button to rotate. So Alt and left mouse button to rotate around an object, and then use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. And here's another tip. I can hold down the L key and the left mouse button to then rotate my sun to see what my blueprint will look like in different lighting angles. And finally up here, we have our toolbar. And the most important button up here is the play button. So I can also play my game from the blueprint, and it will open up a new window with my game. So there are two ways I can play my game. Press escape to exit. And all the way over here, we have the compile button. Whenever we make a change to our blueprint, like adding a new node within the event graph, in order for that change to take effect, I'm going to have to recompile my blueprint by pressing this button. Or I can just press play, which will automatically compile all the blueprints that my game needs. And finally, because all these panels are widgets with tabs, I can always grab them and then dock them to the side. So I can customize my user interface. And if I mess up my user interface, I want the default user interface back, then I can always go to Windows, Load Layout, and choose the default editor layout. To follow along with this tutorial, you have to download some custom free assets designed for this tutorial. You can download the assets, link in the description below. Now that we know how to navigate our blueprint editor, I think it's time that we jump into a brand new project because, of course, you probably noticed that, wait, this is a third-person character. This isn't a first-person shooter, and that's the game we are going to be creating. So let's go ahead and create a new project specifically for the first person shooter. And to do so, I could come up to File and select New Project up here to get the New Project window, or just like beforehand, I can exit out of everything and then double click to open up Unreal Engine to also get the Unreal Project browser. Now I could go into Games and then start off our game for the first person template. But to future proof this video, that's how in the future, if they ever do change the first person template, I recommend you start from the first person template project that is included within the downloadable assets. So if you haven't already, go ahead and download the target game assets, link in the description below. Once you have that downloaded, you want to make sure before you open up the project, you need to unzip it. Double click to open it up, and specifically, we need to unzip the first person template. So go ahead and drag that onto my desktop to unzip it. Okay, now that is zipped, let's go exit out of the Unreal Project browser. We can rename this to anything. I'm going to call this my first game and double click to open up its folder. And I'm also going to open up its folder. And I'm also going to rename it right here because the project is still called first person template. So right click, go to rename, or shortcut is F2, and call this my first game also. So now I can double click on it. And that is how you rename projects, in case you're wondering. This is what you will see when you open up the first person template. This template is very simple, and call this my project browser. We can rename this to anything. I'm going to call this my first game and double click to open up its folder. And I'm also going to rename it right here because the project is still called first person template. So right click, go to rename. name, or shortcut is F2, and call this my first game also. This is what you will see when you open up, again, double click on it. And that is how you rename projects. This my first game also. So now I can double click on it. And that is how you rename projects, in case you're wondering. This is what you will see when you open up the first person template. This template is very similar to Unreal's first person template, except if I press play, and then I can fire that into one of these boxes, which will fly away because they have physics, and press escape to exit. Now let's go ahead and let's jump into our first person character to learn more about blueprints. So press Control and space, go into first person, blueprints, and right here is the character that we're using. So if I double click to go on this is the blueprints that make up my first person character. And here is the viewport. So as you can see, it's just a capsule collision, a camera, arms, and a weapon. And the weapon is built into the first person character. Go into the event graph. Now, what exactly are all these nodes? And before we jump into what these nodes are doing, the controls are right mouse button to pan. So hold down the right mouse button to pan my graph, and then use the scroll wheel to zoom in or zoom out. So that's right mouse. What these nodes are doing, the controls are right mouse button to pan. So hold down. Down the right mouse button to pan my graph, and then use the scroll wheel to zoom in or zoom out. So that's right mouse button pan, scroll wheel to zoom out or zoom in. Now we're going to start creating nodes, string them together, change them to create our own game. And don't worry, I know this looks complicated. We are going to create our own blueprint from scratch very soon. I just want to have this open as an example to show what exactly blueprints are doing behind the scene. So if we zoom in very simply, these red nodes are events. So these events could be linked to other blueprints, or they could be linked to the player themselves pressing buttons on the keyboard. For example, this event is telling us that it's going to be activated whenever the player presses the left mouse button. So when they press the left mouse button, an executable wire will be shot out, and then all the nodes that are connected to it will be executed in order. First, The player's going to press the left mouse button. Then an animation is going to play. We're going to spawn a projectile bullet, which is the yellow sphere, and then we're going to play a sound at location. So all three of these nodes make up the fire logic. Or up here, we have an action called jump, which is linked to my spacebar. So whenever I press the spacebar, the player is going to jump, and then when I release the spacebar, the player is going to stop jumping. And we can watch these nodes fire in real time. Now let me go move the details panel off to the side so we can see more of our blueprints. And then if I press play up here, we get our little window. Now, if I go into my game, by clicking on the screen, we no longer have access to that mouse. So if I ever want to get back my mouse, I can press Shift and F1 at the same time. So that's Shift. F1 to get my mouse cursor. So now that I have my mouse cursor and I'm no longer playing my game, I can go ahead and make the window just a little bit smaller like that, and then put it up here to the top right-hand corner. And I can watch my player character's nodes run in real time by coming to selected, select the first person character to watch that blueprint's nodes. And let me make the window so I can see my game. Up here to the top right-hand, my player character's nodes run in real time by coming up to no debug object selected, select the first person character to watch that blueprint's nodes. And let me make the window smaller so I can see my game. Now, if I walk around with my debug first person character selected, we can see that right there. If I press space, those nodes are running in real time.
तो बेसिकली मला एवढं कळत आहे कॅरेक्टर एक क्लास आहे त्याच्यामध्ये हे सगळं माउस क्लिक इव्हेंट स्पेस बार क्लिक इव्हेंट स्पेस बार असेल क्लिक इव्हेंट पर बटन क्लिक इव्हेंट कॅमेरा इनपुट Let's see. पहिला.
Or if I fire my weapon, you'll see the white line becomes orange, which is telling us that all the nodes connected to that event are firing.
तो जेवढं मला कळालं सांगतो. लेफ्ट माउस बटन क्लिक इव्हेंट आहे. मॉन्टेज प्ले हा आय गेस ॲनिमेशन घेतं. आर्म्सचा आणि तो प्ले करतो. स्पॉन प्रोजेक्टाईल हा एक अजून एक फंक्शन आहे. हा प्रोजेक्टाईल जो पण क्लास आहे जो कुठे गेला प्रोजेक्टाईल जो पण क्लास आहे हा बॉल तो स्पॉन करतो. लास्टला प्ले साऊंड ॲट लोकेशन टार्गेट लोकेशन. लास्टला ही जी नोड आहे ती इथून ॲक्टरची लोकेशन घेते कोणत्या त्या बॉल जो पण स्पॉन होतोय गेम आपण खेळतोय ते पण ते हा जो बॉल स्पॉन होतं त्याचं लोकेशन घेते. एक ही नोड लोकेशन घेते त्याचा कुठे हे झालं कोलिजन इव्हेंट कोलिजन कुठे झालं कोणता ऑब्जेक्ट सिक्वेन्स झालं आणि तिथून आवाज प्ले होतो ऑब्जेक्टला लागलं मध्ये एंटर
So when I press fire, Unreal will execute these three nodes in order. And that's why blueprints are amazing. It allows us to see the logic of our game running in real time. So if there are any issues and we need to debug our game, then we can watch our blueprint to see what's wrong. And it helps us get a better sense of what is happening behind the scenes of Unreal. Now let's go ahead and create an event and a node connected to it. So to create an event or any nodes, you just want to right click anywhere in the screen. So
ऍक्च्युली मी व्हिडिओ पहिले फास्ट फॉरवर्ड मध्ये बघितलेली आहे मग मला थोडं थोडं माहिती आहे त्याच्यावरून अंदाजा लावतोय मी फक्त गोष्टींचा काय कसं वर्क करतं.
right click in an empty location, and then we're going to create a new event, which is linked to keyboard F. So type in keyboard F and select it right there. Now, whenever I press the F key, this event will fire, and anything connected to pressed will be executed. Now, to connect a node to pressed, I can drag from here and let go, and Unreal is smart enough to ask us what node we want to connect this event to, and that is the print screen. So go ahead and select print screen right there. Now, if we want to break a node connection, hold down Alt and left click. So that's Alt and left click to break a connection. And you can ask us, I press, we click anywhere in the screen. So right click in an empty location, and then we're going to create a new event, which is linked to keyboard F. So type
एक बटनचा क्लिक इव्हेंट ऍड केला. प्रिंट स्ट्रिंग ऍड केला. वर्ल्ड गेम चालू केला परत एकदा. एक बटन क्लिक केला. इथे हॅलो वर्ल्ड प्रिंट करून येते. एक मिनिट. हॅलो वर्ल्ड आला प्रिंट करून. सो बेसिकली एक सेकंड. या क्लिक इव्हेंट ऍड केला. बटन क्लिक इव्हेंट ह्याला जॉईन केला. प्रिंट स्ट्रिंग हा एक फंक्शन आहे. हा फंक्शन तुम्ही आय गेस काय बोलतात त्याला. तुम्ही इनपुट घेणार, चेक करणार एक बटन प्रेस आहे की नाही. हा क्लिक इव्हेंट झाला असेल. हा फंक्शन येऊन प्रिंट करणार हॅलो वर्ल्ड. दाखवतो. एफ 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 हॅलो वर्ल्ड वन.
Keyboard F and select it right there. E was smart enough to add and alt and click on the link. Leave that at what you want. I can. That's very important. Let's 95% of the time, this context sensitivity does work, but there's some rare cases where it doesn't work, and you want a very specific node. Then go ahead and uncheck it to get access to more possible nodes. Now, in my case, I'm generally just going to leave this on for now and type in print string. Also, this is me personally, but instead of holding down shift to connect two pins, I like to drag from here by holding down left mouse button and connecting up like that. So the print string will, as you can guess, print a string onto our viewport. So this will say something on the top left-hand corner, and we can have this say anything. So I'm going to do the very classic hello world, F button, that will fire, and in the top left-hand corner, we will get hello world options. You just created your first event in Unreal.
इट वॉज अ मिस्टेक. हे सेम इंग्लिश मध्ये एक्सप्लेन केलं जे मी आता एक्सप्लेन केलं राहिले. ठीक आहे, या पार्ट मध्ये
Mention. So what we're telling Unreal, create a shooter game where the player has to shoot a bunch of targets within the given time frame. But before we can do that, we first have to migrate some assets. So the assets we want to migrate are located within the downloadable content if you haven't already gotten that. So go ahead and double click on it, and we have the beginner game assets. So go ahead and drag that onto your desktop, zip it. Now this is going to contain a brand new project. So double click to open a completely blank project, except it contains assets we want. So it contains assets we want. So it has these sci-fi weapons. If I double click on it, you can see what this is that we're going to give the player. Of course, we have the target meshes. Now, the reason why I didn't include this within the is because it's essential to know how we can move assets in between two different projects. So I want to
what. I guess.